everyone. Welcome to CBR Saga, CBR's one and only podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Oscorp. Oscorp. Since Oscorp has officially bought CBR now, I am now legally required to say this. Oscorp is great. Truly a multinational corporation for the people in these trying times. Who needs Avengers when you have a, swell guy like Norman Osborn? That guy gets it. Alright, enough of that. Today's episode, we're bringing you another epic debate that pits the Dark Avengers against the Young Avengers. Who do you think would win in a matchup between these two super teams? Well, that's what we're here to debate today. We'll be pitting U.S. Agent against Patriot, Ironheart versus Norman Osborn's Iron Patriot, Kate Bishop versus Yelena, and then finally Wiccan versus Abomination. Oh man, so many matchups. It's going to be an awesome time. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jacoby, and if you want to skip the whole debate thing, we could just, say that we're going to tell the Young Avengers parents on them and they can't fight anymore.
No, I think this is a really excellent mashup because I think both the Dark Avengers and the Young Avengers are going to make big waves in the MCU going forward, so it makes sense to see which new team is going to come out on top. What are your thoughts overall about the Dark Avengers and the Young Avengers?
Obviously, to me, they're both a bit of a step down from, the Avengers, but they have their cool, unique twists to them that make them different from the Avengers. I think it depends on how the teams use that twist, the Young Avengers being their age, the Dark Avengers being their sort of dark side, their moral ambiguity, as it were. It depends on how the teams use those differences to their advantage or to their detriment.
So let's get into kind of our first matchup today. So we're going to start with U.S. Agent versus Patriot. And now U.S. Agent, we kind of know a little bit because of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously. But Patriot is a character who is also basically in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's Isiah Bradley. He is Isiah Bradley's grandson and who is destined to become the character known as Patriot. What do you think of this matchup, Nick?
It's interesting because, you say they embody or they want to embody Captain America. And I think you're right. I think they both sort of strive for that goal. I just don't know if at least one of them reaches that goal. I think on the whole, they both become something else entirely. So in terms of powers and things like that, I think the clear winner, if you want to just get right into it, is U.S. Agent. U.S. Agent has the super soldier serum. He has a history of fighting in the army. He has the tactical knowledge. He has the bravery. Even though he might overthink things from time to time in terms of his goal of becoming Captain America, I think he has the clear advantage here.
So I disagree with you there because I think actually Isiah Bradley is going to kind of take this in the end because we haven't really seen Isiah Bradley's origins yet. But I think what's going to happen is it's going to follow his comic book storyline where he's going to receive a blood transfusion from his grandpa, Isiah, and then he is going to be a super soldier as well. The super soldier-ness of both of them is going to even out for each other. And I think why Elijah is going to come out on top of this is because I think he's driven more. I think he's dedicated more. He has a legacy to live up to more, and he's more focused. He's lived under his grandpa's kind of shadow and under his wing for so long, where his grandpa didn't want anybody to become a superhero. But after the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Isiah is more open to the idea of hero-ness and being a hero, I think that's going to cause Elijah to step up and really just stick it to U.S. Agent.
Listen, you say he's under the weight of the legacy of his grandfather and the legacy of Captain America. That's going to be difficult for such a young kid to handle. It's the reason why Spider-Man has so often failed and then he has to come back and succeed in the end, but he fails at first is because he's too young. He can't handle these things. He can't handle the legacy, the shadow of someone like Isiah Bradley. U.S. Agent has already done that. He's already made a name for himself in the Army, especially the one in the MCU. With all his medals of bravery and his track record in the Army, I really think U.S. Agent has been in the fight. He's been in the battle. He wouldn't let something like a fight go to his head. Eli, like I said, he's so young that he's done things already that have sort of made him the underdog in this. He's wanted to get to that super soldier level so badly that he lied before he got that blood transfusion. He lied about having that blood transfusion, was actually taking mutant growth hormones. That's the mindset of someone who wants so badly to be something that he's not at the moment that I don't think he wins in a fight.
John Walker says a fight won't get to his head. He is crazy. He is nuts. Everything gets to his head. He doesn't know how to handle the super soldier serum that's currently coursing through his veins, and it causes him to freak out, to not keep his cool, to not keep his calm, collected nature that needs to happen. You say that Eli Bradley lied about initially taking taking the super soldier serum in the comics and being a super soldier. And you say that's a bad thing. I say that's someone who is committed to the goal, who's committed to do good overall, because that's somebody who wants to do good in the world and who wants to do good for the people around him. U.S. Agent is just too caught up in his own ideals of just wanting to be Captain America so badly that he'll kill people. And the fact that U.S. Agent can't keep his cool in a fight is going to be detrimental to this. All Eli has to do is just say, hey, remember Battlestar? How's he doing? And then U.S. Agent is going to flip out, and he's going to lose himself, and he's not going to be in the right state of mind in order to come out on top of this. And that's why Eli, who has the guidance of somebody like Isiah Bradley to keep his cool, and even probably under the more mentorship of Sam Wilson's Captain America, that he's going to come out on top in this fight.
If Eli says that to John Walker, yes, John Walker will go crazy and will probably kill Eli, thus winning the fight. I agree. John Walker's a little unhinged, especially from where we see him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I think that unhingedness, John Walker's unhinged, is a much better thing for him because it causes him to be a better fighter, even if he's fighting people and winds up killing people. It's not a good thing, but we're talking about a fight here. I think he wins the fight with that crazy edge. Eli Bradley doesn't have that yet. You know, he doesn't have that sort of experience that would drive him to do something like that, to have that sort of killer instinct that I think John Walker has already. And John Walker was a good fighter. He could take on super soldiers before he had the serum. He could master the throwing of the shield before the serum. Eli Bradley needs the mutant growth hormones. Eli Bradley needs the super soldier serum to be a good fighter.
I think Eli overall has also another thing that's going to come in handy in this fight, and that's a little bit of range here. I mean, if we go down to just straight weapons, I don't think fighting prowess is everything you need, because once you have the super soldier serum, it seems like you're the best fighter in the world. I think anybody can fight with a super soldier serum, so I think that evens each other out. So if it comes down to weapons, John Walker is going to have his steel shield that dents easily that he made in his basement somewhere, but Elijah has these really cool, like 5-pointed throwing stars that he has. He has more tactical advantage. He has more use for the weapons around him. Plus, whenever Elijah gets his shield that it's going to do, it's going to be so much better than, John Walker's do-it-yourself shield that breaks immediately.
Hey, it doesn't break immediately. It takes some punches from some super soldiers, and then it dents a little bit. Yes, it's not perfect, probably not as aerodynamic, but the fact of the matter is, you know what doesn't come back? Throwing stars. Eli Bradley throws those throwing stars, they get stuck in John Walker's dinky little shield, and then he's got nothing. And John Walker now has a shield with spikes sticking out of it to make an even better weapon.
Let's move on to our next fight here. And I think this is like basically our Iron Man light team up. I think this is another one that the Young Avengers are going to win. So this fight is going to be Ironheart versus Iron Patriot, aka Norman Osborn. And I love this fight because I think throughout the MCU, there's always this talk about who becomes the next Iron Man and who can further embody the ideals of Iron Man to become kind of the next hero in the same vein. And that's why I think Ironheart, Riri Williams, is going to be that hero. She's just as smart as Tony Stark. She can build her own suit, and the suit that she is going to use to fight Norman Osborn's Iron Patriot is going to be vastly superior. Who you got in this fight?
So I agree. There's a whole lot of talk about Iron Man is almost like a mantle, the same way Captain America is. And I agree, it probably will be Riri. But I think someone who does not deserve to be Iron Man, like a Norman Osborn, and yet can still become him, like he took over that role in the comics, becoming Iron Patriot, even though he doesn't deserve it, he was able to trick the world around him. I think he's got a far more clever, a far more crazy mind. And again, crazy is a good thing in these fights because it causes you to have that killer instinct, that desire to win. I think Norman Osborn has a lot more tricks up his sleeves, has a lot more access to resources than Riri Williams does. Even though I'll give her the edge, I believe she's probably smarter than him. I think Norman Osborn might just be a little cleverer.
Yeah, sure, he's cleverer here in this thing, but it doesn't matter when he doesn't have the mastery over the suit that the fight. Norman Osborn is going to have all these resources, yes, but if he doesn't understand really the basics of the suit that he's using to fight, then he's not going to win. And I think that's what gives Riri her edge. Riri builds her own suits. She uses the technology. She understands how it works. Norman Osborn, when he's Iron Patriot, he's basically using a hand-me-down Iron Patriot suit. It's not his suit, and yes, he can make alterations for it, but if Norman Osborn is not in goblin mode here, and he's just some guy in the suit fighting someone who has made the suit himself, that's what's going to give Riri the edge. Norman can be clever all he wants, but when it comes down to who makes the suit, Riri Williams is going to just crush Norman Osborn into dust.
Norman Osborn has been able to use technology in the past that was developed by other people. Even if you look at Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the glider, the weapons, Those are designed by his scientists and built by his scientists, but he has a working knowledge of how they work, and he's able to use them effectively. Just because the suit was created by someone else doesn't mean Norman Osborn won't be able to become a master of it, won't be able to use it as much. And he's going to have those external resources. He's a businessman. He has loads of cash. That's something he has that Riri doesn't, that Tony Stark had. He has access to all of these things to create these new ways to defeat Riri, to add to the suit. And the best part is he doesn't even have to spend time. He has scientists that can build it. He can say, hey, I want a rocket launcher on the back. And his scientists will, and he has access to the resources. His scientists will build it, and then he will be able to use the suit. And he has a whole lot of free time to continue building his business and gaining those resources.
You say it's a lot of free time, but I'm sorry, he is the face of a multinational corporation, $1 billion. He does not have a lot of free time to be like, okay, I'm going to sit and I'm going to really tinker with this suit. He doesn't have time for that. Riri Williams is just a teenager. She has all the time in the world to actually make things for her suit that's going to benefit her, and she'll know how to use them in a more effective way. Norman's scientist team, who's adding a rocket launcher to the back, is great, but then when Norman Osborn is up there flying around, he's like, okay, how do I activate this the rocket launcher on the back again, or how is this going to work? It's not going to go very well. Riri Williams will know every inch of her suit down to every bolt and every screw, and that's going to maneuver her better in order to overcome this not goblin. Norman Osborn is not living up to his full potential as the villain that we know that he can be, and that's what's going to cause Riri Williams, who is embracing her true destiny as Iron Man's successor, to win.
If you think teenagers have nothing but free time, I implore you to ask Spider-Man. He will tell you the opposite. They do not have free time. They're busy. They're living their busy lives trying to balance all these things. And again, I will say this: experience outranks everything. Norman Osborn, though he may not be the Green Goblin anymore, it's very possible that this version of Norman Osborn has been the Green Goblin in the past. He has that experience fighting Spider-Man. He has that experience being inside the Goblin's mind, having the Goblin inside his mind and knowing how he thinks. And he can use those aspects of how the Goblin fights in his new Iron Patriot armor. So he has that on Riri Williams. And yes, while he has scientists and other people doing the work, he's also a genius. He also will take the time to learn how his suit works. He won't be flying in the air wondering where his rocket launcher is. He knows.
Okay, all right, fine. We're going to pit Kate Bishop, the future Hawkeye, versus Yelena, the future Black Widow. Nick, what do you think of this matchup?
I think this is actually a pretty close fight, if I'm being honest. However, if you want an example of what happens in the future, I say we look at the past. What happens every time Black Widow and Clint Barton fight? Black Widow being Natasha Romanoff. Natasha wins. In the Avengers, when Clint Barton's mind controlled, Natasha wins. In Avengers Endgame, when they're having that fight to see who can jump off the cliff, Natasha wins. Natasha is a better fighter than Clint Barton, which makes me think that people who are trained in the Red Room, like Yelena, will be better, more strategic fighters than someone who is trained by Clint Barton, who has been beaten by the Black Widow.
As far as the past goes, Yelena has been training for longer, sure, but I also think Hawkeye is the better teacher in this. If we're going off of how their ability to train, it's going to come down to what their pasts, I think, have taught them. And while Yelena has had it probably pretty hard, just as hard as Black Widow has in the Red Room, Kate Bishop has one of the best role models in the MCU. Hawkeye was the one who brought Black Widow over to, the side of good. Hawkeye was the one who convinced Scarlet Witch to be an Avenger. Hawkeye will be the one to inspire Kate to overcome any obstacle. I think Yelena is a lesser version of Black Widow. So even though Black Widow has always come out on top against Hawkeye, just Yelena, since she is the lesser version of it, it's going to cause Hawkeye's new protege, Kate Bishop, to win, because Kate's going to win this.
I think this is much closer than you are letting on, but I think Yelena, having been trained in the Red Room and having worked for a government, Kate Bishop has, again, no experience yet. She has no experience fighting other than being on the Young Avengers team, and they're sort of building their story. And I get that, but Yelena has this backstory. She has been training for much longer. She might not be as good as Natasha, and Kate Bishop might be as good as Hawkeye. That's still a very close matchup, and I still think Yelena has the training, has the discipline. Hawkeye's not going to make you go through. He might be like a nicer guy, like a better person to look up to for Kate Bishop, but the fact of the matter is you get serious training in the Red Room. You're forced to kill people without remorse. You're forced to fight until you are broken. That's not something Hawkeye's going to force Kate Bishop to do. And in the end, while it may be less cruel, it's going to make Yelena a better hand-to-hand fighter.
What I think is great about this is that Hawkeye knows all of Yelena's moves, right? Because he knows all of Natasha's moves overall. So if Hawkeye is training Kate Bishop and being his protege, while Yelena has nobody because her closest confidant is now lying at the bottom of a cliff on Vormir, it's not going to turn out well for Yelena because Hawkeye will instill in Kate all these lessons about how to fight, and especially because since he knows that Yelena is such a close combat fighter because she's a Black Widow and can kill, in an instant when she's close by, then I think Kate Bishop is going to lean into the ranged aspect of this. And I don't think you can beat any version of Hawkeye, whether it's Kate Bishop or normal Hawkeye, in a ranged fight. And that's how this fight's going to be decided. Yelena could be the best hand-to-hand fighter in the world, but if Kate Bishop is able to keep her distance and use her bow and arrow as intended, then Yelena's not going to get close enough in order to take her out.
Yelena is a master manipulator, just like all of the Black Widows, just like everyone who was trained in the Red Room. Kate Bishop is a young kid. I think it would be very easy for Yelena to sort of challenge Kate Bishop and say, hey, you can't beat me without that bow and arrow. Like, you're nothing but the same way that George Batroc sort of baited Captain America into fighting without his shield, saying, oh, I thought you were more than just a shield. I think Yelena could sort of trick Kate Bishop into doing the same thing by saying, oh, you're nothing more than a bow and arrow. And that would eliminate the range fight, get into the head of a young kid, because that's what the Black Widows do the best. They're master interrogators, they're master manipulators. I think Yelena will use that to her advantage.
Let's get into our final fight here, and I think this one is, I'm sorry, Nick, a very unfair matchup for you because we have Wiccan versus Abomination, the final Young Avenger versus the final Dark Avenger, and Abomination drew the short end of the stick here because I think Abomination is just this big, walking, brutish target who is very strong, yes, but he is going up against one of the most powerful magic users already in the MCU. I mean, we see how strong Wiccan is already with his ability to, when he heard his dad outside the Hex, even though he was just a construct. I mean, we saw how Wiccan was able to freeze all those soldiers in WandaVision and stop them in their tracks. There's just no way Abomination, who is all strength, will be able to touch Wiccan. And I am so excited to hear how you think Abomination will win this.
Well, I thought you were saying sorry and you were just giving up right then and there, considering Wiccan has no shot. Abomination wins this. And here's why. Again, it comes back to experience. Wiccan is not full magic. Wiccan is not Wanda yet. Wiccan has a lot to learn, and just because he can hear his dad's voice from 2 miles away, that's not impressive to me. To me, I've seen what strength does to magic users. It's not easy to control that much strength. Wanda, while beating Thanos, had difficulty because he's so strong. Doctor Strange having to stop the water from flowing in and flooding the battle in Avengers Endgame, that took all of his energy. He wasn't even able to fight anymore. Someone so strong as Abomination will overpower Billy's ability to use his magic. And especially when you think about what Abomination's been through. Not only was he an amazing tactician, an amazing soldier before becoming Abomination, but now he's been waiting. He's just been lying in prison. We know that from that Marvel one-shot where they say they've just got Abomination sort of locked up. He's got so much pent-up rage, and to see it come out in the body of Abomination, all it takes is one blow on Billy, one punch to get through Billy's ability to stop it, and Abomination wins easy.
See, you say that Abomination is a great tactician, and I think he was back in the day, back when he was Emil Blonsky. But I think Emil Blonsky, his mind was so warped by this formula, and where he was so just driven by the singular desire to win and to fight. And I think that lost him a lot of his intelligence that is necessary when you're such a strong fighter. And the fact that he's been waiting in prison for so long and just sitting there for 10 years now is even more of a detriment. You say that that's going to make him even hungrier. That's going to make him even angry, but he's in just a small contained cell where if he's just getting angry and angrier every day, when he gets the chance to bust out and fight, he's not going to be thinking, okay, let's stop and think about how I want to defeat this magic user. No, he's going to charge right forward and just start punching because that's all he'll know after so long in captivity. And that's why someone like Wiccan, who has things like, sure, okay, you say it's not impressive to hear your father outside the Hex 2 miles away. You tried doing that and tell me how easy it is. But he also, on top of that, he has the energy manipulation. He has telekinesis. He has telepathy. He has so much untapped magical potential that he could use to stop Abomination in his tracks, to shoot Abomination into the moon, or anything like that. Abomination is not going to get close.
He is going to get close because with what we've seen is that Billy is a kid who is afraid. He was afraid of Agatha Harkness, just like holding him by the neck with her little spell. Billy is afraid. He's a kid. If he sees this giant abomination of a monster running at him, he's going to panic. He's not going to perform as well. And Abomination, like I said, all it takes is one clean hit. One clean hit to get past Billy's magic, Billy's hex, to stop the brute force. And Billy's done. That's all it's going to take.
I think these matchups and these fights would be awesome to see, and now a part of me hopes that somehow the MCU finds a way to pit the Dark Avengers versus the Young Avengers, because I think that would just be awesome to see, and I think we've hopefully proved today that they would make some really interesting and engaging fights. So I would like to thank Nick so much for joining me, and thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next time with another exciting episode of CBR Saga. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.